allegiance, Supervisor Leggett.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning. I'll ask the clerk to do the roll call.
Mr. Conover? Here. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard? Here. Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Here. Mr. Brock?
Here.
Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Here. Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Mr. Vanslow?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Strauss?
Here.
Ms. Sieber? Here. Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. Montesi? Mr. Sokol?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Wood? Here. Chairman Garrity?
Here. First item of business would be a motion to accept the January 15th board minutes. And a motion by Supervisor Vanslow, second by Supervisor Simpson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we're going to recognize the graduates of the safety program. I'll ask Amy and Mike Needham of Needham Associates to come up.
Thank you. I think you can probably tell one of them. Thank you for taking time out of your agenda to have us. For those of you that have been on the board for a while, we've seen us here before with our safety program. But for the benefit of the new folks, Warren County Self Insurance with Needham Risk Management has offered this safety program certificate for 3-4 years now. We're well over 50 graduates of the program. In order to graduate from the program, the employees take something like 6 days of training. They take 3 core courses. They learn about safety management, accident investigation, and hazard identification. In addition to that, they take 3 elective courses in whatever field they may work in. I put on each one of your desks a copy of our catalog. It's current as of the other day. And since then, I am working on some other programs. So keep an eye on that. As a paper copy, you should all be getting my email, probably more than you want to. But take a look at it and maybe get some of your employees in it if they haven't. We have 5 graduates today, and each one I'd like to have come up. We have a certificate for them and a hard hat that is made by our sign shop that indicates they're a safety graduate. So our first graduate today is from the Warren County DPW, works up yonder, and that's Karen Beatty. I fully have history with her. Karen has completed our program, so congratulations. Our next graduate is Jared Ginchek from the town of Warrensburg. He was unable to be with us today, so we're going to give his certificate and hard hat to one of our other graduates to take back. We'll do that. Next on our list is someone you all know as Amy Hirsch. Amy is a graduate of our program, has taken a lot more than she was required to do, and done a lot with us for the safety of the county employees here on campus. So congratulations. From the Warren County DPW, we have Kathy Richardson, and I don't believe Kathy is here today. So maybe we can get Mr. Sennison to take her certificate and her card. And last but certainly not least, from the town of Warrensburg is Joe Sanhorn. Joe just completed our program in the last couple of weeks, so he snuck in here for graduation. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks. Again, safety is so important, not just in your work lives, but in your home lives also. There's things that they'll learn in the safety classes they teach here at the county that you can use around your house. So that's why safety is so important. My report for last month, the 15th, I was here. The 19th, I attended a meeting on police consolidation with Mayor Diamond. And then in the afternoon, went down to a broadband meeting with Ed Bartholomew. On the 20th, had a meeting with the Post Star editorial board about county issues. The 21st, I attended the Economic Growth Planning and LDC meetings. On the 22nd was at Health, Human, and Social Services Committee meetings. On the 25th, Criminal Justice, Public Safety, Support Services Committee meetings. On the 26th, Invasive Species, Real Property Tax, Legislative, and County Facilities Committee meetings. The 27th, I went to the APA meeting in Keene Valley with Matt Simpson. On the 28th, attended the Intercounty Legislative meeting in wonderful Lewis County. And in Lewis County, they're fortunate. The Kraft Foods is expanding their factory up there, going to add, I believe, 150 jobs onto where they make all the Philadelphia cream cheese up in Lewis County. So that's exciting for that county. And the 29th, we attended the Tourism Oxy Tax Wood Park committee meetings. February 1st, attended NISAC. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we were at NISAC in Albany. On the 5th, and I renewed my emergency management training on the 3rd, so I'm good for another year. On the 5th, we attended a meeting with the county attorney, welcoming Brian. On the 8th, attended a meeting with Warren County Historical Society to talk about potential moving over to Gurney Lane. On the 10th, attended Finance, Personnel, and Higher Education Committee meetings. On the 11th, we had a meeting with I held a meeting with the Police Supervisors Union. We're very close to having a proposed contract. That's the 2 lieutenants. We'll be giving that. Hopefully, we'll have that information ready for the committee on the 29th. And then on the 17th, I attended a meeting on workplace violence and the policy. And that was very informative. I think for the last 2 years, we've had six to eight various reports of workplace violence here at the county center. It could be internal, it could be external. And I think that's why it's so important, the steps we're taking here at the county to secure the facility and what we're doing for our probation officers out in the field, putting radios in cars, what we're doing for public health nurses. I don't know if we're doing public health nurses, but we certainly are doing CPS workers who have to go out on calls in the outlying reaches of the county. Putting radios in to help their safety is very important, and I will continue to make my pitch for the radio communication system, which is in dire needs of updates. Next, I'd like to ask Amy Bartlett just to step forward a little bit. And we don't have a big dog and pony show for Amy because, she's going to continue to come back. But this certificate of appreciation is presented to Amy Bartlett on behalf of the Warren County Board of Supervisors in recognition of your 21 years of dedicated service to the County of Warren and Warren County services. That's today.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Supervisor Leggett, if you want to start committee report.
No committees. I did attend the Fish and Wildlife Management Board meeting on behalf of Warren County at the DEC offices on Tuesday, February 4th.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Gerard?
How you doing? Cornell is doing their VITA program, which is a great program they've been doing for years. They do taxes for free. They're downstairs today in room 5110. They also do it Wednesdays at their facility, and they're on the road generally Fridays and Saturdays around the community, different locations they publicize to help our residents out in the community. It's a great program. They do a really good job. There's 2 resolutions out of facilities, number 69 and 70. It's 69 is authorizing travel for the airport manager, Ross Dewberry, to the airport conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And number 70 is the payment for work completed in relation to the capital project, the court space. And we had at facilities, we had Clark Patterson come with, I think there was 6 or 7 of their engineers with the different disciplines, explain where they're at with the project and answer questions. I know the meeting ran late because of other things, and some people had to leave, but I think we put it on the website, and it was also copied on the internet so that everybody has the minutes, etc. But they were very informative and brought the whole staff, so I appreciate what Clark Patterson did, and they're moving along, and things are coming together well. Thank you.
Good. McDevitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had our economic growth and development meeting on January 21st. I think maybe the highlight of the meeting was Ed Bartholomew in describing some of the new businesses here in Warren County. And let me just list them kind of quickly. Apex Solar Power currently employs 165 people and is growing. Another growing company was Etain. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in the town of Chester. And I thought that Supervisor Leggett made an excellent observation when he inquired what a business in Chestertown had to do to receive broadband. We live in a world where we have to be interconnected. We have to be able to communicate, whether it's businesses or kids in school. Ed talked about Just Water in Glens Falls and their commitment to our county, and he noted that Just Water was interested in promoting trail systems and community amenities throughout Warren County. So I think the end of the day, economic growth and development relates to jobs in our county. One other issue that was brought up was agricultural land in Warren County, and this has always been a little bit of an interest of mine from the perspective that and this was not mentioned in Wayne's presentation, but a third of the food that is produced in this country, if not the world, has to do with bees and bee pollination. There has been a significant degradation of the bee population in this country, and I think it's an issue that maybe we just have to educate people in terms of what we can do in terms of pesticides to reduce the impact of that population, of that bee population, just because it has to do with food. A third of the food that is grown in this country has to do with bees and bee pollination. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Bramer.
Good morning, Chairman. I just wanted to let the other supervisors know, in case they missed it, that the Lieutenant Governor announced a $2 million award to the Civic Center.
Very good. Supervisor Brock.
I have nothing to report.
Supervisor McDonald.
No report.
Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended NISAC also, and I'm on the Standing Committee for Public Health and Mental Health. And there were 3 resolutions that we discussed and passed on to go to the governor. One was supporting an end to executive administrative cuts, an increase in the base grant, and they want reimbursement for Medicaid, general public health work that's undertaken by the local agencies. The second resolution was supporting the rabies prevention across the state, but they would like to see that the state provide the appropriate funding in order to achieve that. And the third one was a resolution that was dealing with the New York State Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. They just feel the state is not being transparent enough. They're not sharing the information. They're not collaborating with local governments, and so then it's difficult for them to take these people out of institutional settings and place them someplace else when they're not getting cooperation from the state. So those were our 3 resolutions. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on January 25th, and with Justin Gagnos from Saratoga North Creek Railway provided an update on what they had planned this year. They're going to try, they are going to introduce something brand new this year. They're going to reinstitute the dinner trains. We're going to have 94 of them, and they're going to be under the brand name of Pullman, which is a premier luxury service. Of that 94 dinner trains or trains, 31 of them are going to be dinner trains, 26 are brunch, 32 are lunch, and 5 holiday trains. So that's exciting news. Out of that committee, we had, okay, before I go into the resolutions, we also have an event that Jeff and Paul Butler have been working on that's going to be May 14th. And it's going to be at the county hatchery. It's going to be a fishing clinic and open house. Jeff Ingley is going to be there. It's in conjunction with the tourism department. It's going to be pretty exciting. So then on to resolutions. We have
4 resolutions. Resolution 88, deals with, it's an out-of-committee resolution. It's been approved. I approved, along with Jeff, County Administrator. But it's a project that we've been working on for over a year in committee. And, the documents from DOT just became available, the contract. It's, for a preservation project for Bay Road, which is County Route 7. So I would urge your support of that. We had, along with 88, Resolution 90, which authorizes an agreement with Greenman Peterson for the engineering on that project. That's in the amount of $85,500, which the county would be paying $4,275 of that through the grant. Resolution 91 is a resolution to allow the towns to participate in the electronics recycling, which is great for all the towns. We've had a big issue with that in Perkin. And Resolution 89 is another federal aid project, county preservation on County Route 17, 52, and 79. Thank you.
Supervisor Banzel.
Well, Sport Services met January 25th, and there are 2 resolutions in your packet. Number 49 is an out-of-state travel request for Jeremy Strine to attend a conference in Burlington. And number 50 is to extend the health care coverage for certain professionals at Westmount in case there are any claims that develop in the next year. Just kind of a precaution. So, urge your support of those resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson.
The invasive species real property tax met on January 26th. In the interest of keeping paperwork down and taking the pressure off loading the books up, we only have 1 resolution, number 48, some in-house bookkeeping. The second thing outside my committees is I have been asked by Pam Moran from the county planning department to let you all know that First Wilderness, Hudson River, this is 10 years old, 10th anniversary. I'm sure you're all aware of it. Each page in here represents a town. And on your page you get some photographs of what you think is important in your town, and a little bit of text describing what is important to your town and your town. This 10th anniversary, they want to update this. So they're going to send you soon a notice telling you that they're going to update it. You have the opportunity to change the photos, to change the text, very minimal fee, and then there are some other things that come out of this. For instance, the posters that you see in the hallway here, they also appear in the tourism outpost. Dave Kenny's shopping center up here has them in that tourism, and Exit 18 has them there as well. So the point is, it's your chance to revise this and update it. And secondly, they're looking for a quick turnaround. So when you get the notice, don't set it aside. They want to get it back and get this thing moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism met on January 12th. We only have 4 resolutions, 51, 52, 53, and 54. 51 is authorizing to move ahead with the TV commercials for tourism. 52 is to continue our promotional with the Adirondack Regional Chamber, Tourism Committee, and also we have a resolution that we would like to recognize the First Wilderness Quarter as part of our county, like we promote chambers and other venues in our county. So we have a resolution for that. And there's a resolution here for the use of the festival space for the Winter Carnival, which, as we all know, has been, no matter how many snow dances we did this year with the Snowmobile Club, we didn't get the snow. We got ice, but not snow. But we're still in there, and we got to let everybody know that we're still here, and next year we hope that we can really put out our efforts for the Snowmobile Club. A couple of comments I'd like to make. As you all know, tourism department, last 6, 7 months, we've really been stretching out and working, and I try to call it, instead of a single wide door, we have a double door now down in tourism. We've been really out every week, the tourism department meeting with business people and different groups, chambers, and trying to get more to what we can do to keep this moving along, and working a lot with the private sector, and they've been doing a great job with us. And a lot's going on in Warren County, and people, I think Warren County is going to really explode a little in a boom. The new hotel down in Lake George is really coming along well. There's another one across the street that's being built also. We have to talk about hotels at exit 18, 2, maybe 3. So that shows a sign of tourism and what's going on in our county. We also got, I got a report here, this is the travel report, and this is up to 2015. Warren County had the best year in 2015 in the last 6 years of renting rooms that were reported. We rented 968,197 rooms in 2015. I know we did better in 2016, but all that information is not tabulated. The one other thing, I met with our administrator and the chairman of board at early December. I asked if it was all right. I got in contact with Washington County. They're having a little turmoil with their tourism, and I did reach out to them way back in December. We had a couple of phone calls, a couple of emails. The decision was to wait till the first of the year, sometime in January, because they're getting some new supervisors down there and also getting a new administrator. Pleased to say we did meet with them last week. It was a very interesting meeting. I think they were a little impressed about our tourism department and what we can do. And the meeting was left that we're going to start working a little closer with them to cross-cut things that they have down there that we don't have here in Warren County, and what we have here that can help them. We started doing something like this with Saratoga County about 2 years ago with our bus tours, and it's been a real success working with Saratoga County with our motor coach industry. Motor coach people are really happy that the counties we can bring buses down there to come out of Warren County, or they can bring buses from Saratoga up to Warren County to keep things going. So we're going to be moving a little forward. I'll keep you up on whatever happens. We won't do anything unless everybody knows about it, but I think help promoting them in Washington County is a big asset, and we've been working on that for almost 2 months now, and I think it's gonna work out. So again, as you all know, there's a traffic study going on for traffic at the mall area. So that's nice to hear that we have a problem with too much traffic. You got an EDC study that's going on for economical growth. And again, I was at the press conference. Governor Cuomo helped our county and our Glens Falls Civic Center with a $2 million grant to update that facility, which is just unheard of. Also, the state has given $1 million to update the 17-18 travel stop that the Lake George Chamber is running. So a lot's going on. So and I just want to keep you up on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Strauss.
Yes, the Legislative Rules Committee met on January 26th. It was mostly organizational, but as we move forward, we're going to be looking at amending the fireworks law. We're going to be looking at the unfunded indigent defense mandate. We're going to be looking at drone legislation, agricultural districting, and alternate forms of county government. So we'll look at those as we move forward, and that's my report for now.
Supervisor Siebert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On February 6th, I had an opportunity to attend with some of our tourism members the pairing event in Lake George at the Forum. It was very well attended, and I think we're definitely getting our money's worth out of our chamber membership and attending some different events highlighting our tourism department. Also, I'd like to call your attention to resolution number 79 in your packet. We approved that at the Personnel, Finance, and Higher Education Committee, and all that is a change in the location of the tower for that resolution. We had talked in depth about that previously. On February 2nd, there was an investor summit for SUNY Adirondack, and I have promised that I would convey the invite to all of our supervisors. We've been challenged by Washington County for Howell's Trivia Night, and I'll send out an email to everyone to see if anyone is interested in forming a team of 6. It is a friendly competition in support of student scholarships. It includes dinner, dessert, and it's $300 per team. So if anyone's interested in showing off your trivia skills. I also attended, along with Supervisor Simpson, at NISAC, we both sit on the New York State Association of County Social Services and Public Safety Committee. They met at the same time, so we did not have the opportunity to attend both. But Matt asked on behalf of both of us to give a brief report from that committee. And so just briefly, there were 4 resolutions that were forwarded on. Many of them focused around unfunded mandates. The first resolution urged New York State to reverse the trend of shifting the fiscal responsibility of meeting its constitutional requirements to care for the needy to the county property taxes by gradually restoring historic cost sharing. This focused on the safety net program. The second was also urging the governor and the state legislature to take extraordinary measures to maintain the historic local Medicaid zero growth cap. The third was, again, to urge to fully fund all costs related to raising the age of criminal responsibility to avoid a new unfunded mandate. And the last was to implement finance reform to reduce the impact of retroactive chargebacks to the county for use placed in state facilities operated by OCFS. And lastly, given the great news that we're hearing about the $2 million to the Civic Center, what I would urge and ask anyone, if you're interested in supporting the Governor's Winter Challenge. I know Supervisor Simpson and myself are taking on the bobsled challenge in Lake Placid next Sunday, and I hear that Dean Merlino is flirting with the idea of joining us as well. This summer, Dennis and Matt and Fred and I all had an opportunity, and Ron did as well. No, I enjoyed swimming with you, but you weren't on the white water rafting trip, so it's, that was memorable.
Hurricane will come in.
Well,
So you know.
We have to start now to come in first.
we had a lot of friendly competition with other counties, and of course are looking for any supervisors who would like to join our Warren County team next Sunday in Lake Placid. So just wanted to send that invite and information as well, and that's my report.
Supervisor Beatty?
Thank you. I attended a number of meetings this past month, but a few points I just wanted to bring out. I think going forward in 2016, more than ever, I want to see our professional services put out for RFP. I know by law we don't have to in a number of cases, but to get our best value for the county taxpayer buck, I'm going to be insistent that we put out all professional services for using the RFP, request for proposal. My gut feeling is I think we can save some money, so I'm going to be insistent upon that. That being said, there are anomalies to everything, and if there's a specific reason why one thing cannot be put out for an RFP, I'm open to listen to that. It's funny, somebody mentioned an example, what about for example, Clark Patterson that does a lot of work. If they have to bid on an RFP, they've already done a lot of work on a project, and my response was, well, then they'll probably come in they'll probably come in much lower then, because they already have a good handle on the work. So I think we can save money, and so I'm going to be insistent upon that this year, though, that we start being a little more diligent on that. Also, what came out of, I think it was finance, was the command vehicle and where we should be parking that. And this was first to my knowledge, but Mr. Tennyson brought up the fact that we own the C.B. Geiger building and that we rent out half of it and the other half is totally empty. Now, I know we've been talking about anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 to build a building to house that vehicle. That changed my thought process entirely. I think that we should use existing facilities. We don't need to be spending money really we don't have. And that I understand the arguments that using a command vehicle parked down in Glens Falls is a little further away, maybe from the northern parts of the county. That being said, it is the command vehicle. It's not the fire or police vehicles. which have even a higher importance on getting to an incident quicker. So, and also being said, over half of the population is Queensbury and Glens Falls, and actually the vehicle would be probably closer to those. So, that being said, I think hopefully we'll look at using our current facilities to house that instead of spending a couple $100,000. And then finally, I'd like to, hopefully down the road here, look at spending, I'm a big supporter of invasive species and supporting it, and I don't know the laws concerning our bed tax money and how we spend it, but I know we've been challenged. I know Mr. Gerard said, where are we going to come up with money from MSTEM, you know, the ACC and so forth, or SUNY Adirondack. And one of the places I think we should, and I believe we did it 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, was we took $250,000 out of occupancy tax and not the general fund. And to me, we have a $1.9 million surplus in the occupancy tax. Again, legally, I don't know if we can do that. To me, it makes sense because we lose our lakes, we lose our tourism. So to me, that's definitely tied into heads and beds. But I'd like the county attorney to look into that to see if that is an option. And if it is, I'd like to really look at taking that $250,000 a year out of the general fund and instead taking it out of the occupancy tax. I think there would be 250 out of 380 we need a year for MSTEM, and then it'll leave us 130 that we have to find. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to welcome County Attorney Reichenbach to the board. Good luck. Human and Social Services met on January 22nd. As we all know, the community structure has changed. We welcomed Supervisor Simpson, Sieber, Straub, Vanslo, McDonald, and Bramer to our committee. This committee now consists of Employment and Training, Office of the Aging, Social Services, Countryside, Public Health, and Mental Health. So we covered quite a vast area here. And in the upcoming months, as the weather changes and becomes a little bit warmer, we're going to try to do what we've done over the past few years and have meetings at various facilities for the new supervisors so they can take a little tour and see what these departments actually do. The Office of the Aging had a couple of vacant positions to fill. A lot of these issues for all these departments revolved around appointments, contracts, and grants. So those are all addressed in resolutions 55 through 60. Countryside filled a couple of positions, one of a cleaner, one of a laborer. Social Services, we discussed a couple of positions. As you may or may not know, the director, Maureen Schmidt, is out on medical leave. We're not quite sure how long, but we did discuss filling that position with Ms. Schrock-Seeley, and this is going to be for the next 3 months that we will be adjusting her salary, and at that point we will readdress after that and discuss where we're going to go. Hopefully Maureen will be on the mend. Mental health. Mr. York will be giving a presentation next month. It's about a 15 to 20-minute presentation, and it goes over everything, including Washington County's participation. And finally, public health. They also had some reappointments and a one-time grant. And finally, we discussed the fleet of vehicles that we have. We've been having some issues with the current fleet that we have. They are under warranty. So as the shops evaluate the condition of these vehicles and what we need to do, it's mainly their transmissions. So depending on whether we're going to keep the vehicle or trade them in, we will address each vehicle as its own. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to draw your attention to 2 resolutions, 66 and 67. 66 is $1,000 that off-track bedding donates to the county for conservation purposes. The county matches it to Soil and Water Conservation District, Envirothon, for the kids' maintenance. 67 is reappointing the members of the Board of Directors for Soil and Water. I also attended the NISAC meeting and conference, and I sat on the Economic Development and Rural Affairs Committee. They passed two resolutions. One was they're similar to what we passed in the fall. One was about the electronic recycling, to get the legislature to make that more workable for the municipalities. Have the manufacturers take back some of this stuff. The second one was about broadband, just kind of trying to reemphasize our concern to the legislature. And there was also discussion about the IDAs. The state has regulated the IDAs and made it difficult for them to conduct business. So there was a long discussion about that. We did pass a resolution about, I believe, in the fall about that. And there was discussion about the $15 minimum wage.
Supervisor Wood?
Thank you, Chairman. Public Safety met on January 25th. As a result of that, we have resolutions 61 through 64. They're mostly basic housekeeping and annual renewals, some travel authorizations, those kind of things. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Connolly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance, Personnel, and the College Committee met on the 10th of February, represented in your package by resolutions 46 and 47. 71 through 86, 93 to 99, resolutions 95 and 97 that are included in your packet did not come through committee. They, I think, are fairly self-explanatory, and so I give permission, along with our co-chairs, to bring this through to the full board. Those two through to the full board. The committee spent, I would also bring to your attention resolution, I believe, 78, and I'd ask if this is the appropriate time. I don't think this resolution accurately reflects the what the committee adopted, and rather than get involved in a discussion and an amendment on this at this time, what I would ask is that resolution 78 be tabled and sent back to committee for some tweaking.
Are you putting it in the form of a motion?
I would.
Somebody second his motion? Supervisor Seaberg? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is tabled to next month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also had considerable discussion regarding training and requirements for term of employment connected with the training, not unlike what we have with some of our union agreements. It was decided that we would try to draft something up similar, comparable to what we have in other areas, and bring that back to the committee, hopefully on the 29th. We also had considerable discussion about the at what point in time does a deputy not only become the director of the department, but at what point do we adjust the compensation to reflect that? I suspect that's going to continue to have some discussion within the committee. I don't know that we've drafted anything quite yet, but I would invite any of my colleagues who have any thoughts on this subject to get back to me. Should there be some type of term that we should consider? What would be the kind of things that we would consider to develop a policy in this regard, so that we're, consistent and fair to our employees? And I think that was the nature of the discussion, was that we've had instances where perhaps deputies weren't compensated when they took on departmental responsibilities, and of course this becomes a very difficult thing, depending upon the department, depending upon the responsibilities that are involved. Some of these people wear more than one hat when they do take on those responsibilities. So I'm sure we'll be having more discussion on that. And then finally, we had a considerable amount of discussion about the county administrative position and the filling thereof. In the end, it was decided that we would move forward with the filling of the position. position, but it was agreed that we would provide to the committee members, first of all, a description of the duties of the county administrator, which I believe everyone should have received via email. Which is basically the local law that we adopted establishing that position, so that you should review those requirements for discussion on the 29th. In addition, it was agreed that we would provide to the committee by the 29th a sketch of a schedule, what we would do, how we would begin to step out in filling this position. That would include some type of description associated with the position, and last but not least, an indication of where we would be advertising the position when we finally do that. And there was some discussion, I think, an interest in wanting to have it as broad a reach as possible in terms of the advertising of the position, and I would agree with that. So we're preparing a list of the areas where the advertisement might be placed, so that we get as broad a reach as we can. And that, Mr. Chairman, concludes my remarks.
Okay, before I move on to the report by the county administrator, I just would like to recognize two employees who reached their anniversaries. Sharon Morrison, a worker at Countryside Adult Home, has 25 years of service. And Ann Greco in Probation Department has an anniversary at 30 years of service. So if you know these folks, thank them for the service to the county. Report by Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As mentioned by the chairman earlier, I conducted a workplace violence annual review this past month, actually just about a week ago or so. The workplace violence policy that Warren County adopted is adopted pursuant to state law. And the policy itself is really focused in on those types of incidents of violence that could happen to an employee by someone from the outside, but also things that could happen within the employment setting as well. And it identifies those different types of threats or things that we need to protect against. The workplace violence policy sets forth certain ideal standards that we could maintain in our workplace that would help to avoid incidents of workplace violence. It also, though, provides a very precise criteria of how to review situations of workplace violence. Unfortunately, during the year, we have had some. When they do happen, my office, actually it depends on the nature of the particular occurrence, how serious it is as to exactly how far it gets escalated. But bare minimum, when an incident occurs, a department head has to do a review. It gets reported to my office. Depending upon the seriousness of the incident, however, if it's something that's very serious, it's not uncommon for the department head, in fact it is the practice of the department head, to contact me immediately. We set up a team, which includes the sheriff's office, and we take measures immediately to make sure that the particular incident, as well as anything that may flow from that incident, is in fact addressed. So when we meet once a year, though, there's a group that's designated within the policy that should meet. We meet, and at that time, we do two things. We review all of the incidents that happened the past year. So now this is a secondary review, if you will, of those incidents. And we look at them from the context of, is there anything else that we need to be doing to prevent those types of incidents happening in the future? Is there anything else that we should have taken or any other actions that we should take? And then the other thing we do is, in that context as well, we look at the policy itself and say, is there any revisions that we should be making to the policy? And finally, the last element to this policy, which we follow up on at that point, are all the trainings that are required for the employees. My office makes sure that the employees get their trainings. We actually have sign-offs, so I'm sure that people are receiving these trainings. And these are annual trainings. The one thing that did come up during these past discussions, and this is the reason why I get into this, is that it was noted that we really don't have a formal training session for the members of the Board of Supervisors. And so that will be something that gets addressed over the next period of time. The last thing that came up as well is that we do have some revisions to the policy pending before the Support Services Committee, which will be on that agenda again this coming Monday. And so we would encourage the supervisors to take a look at those changes. not earth-shattering, but important changes that need to be made to the policy so that we feel it's in compliance with the standards that we need to maintain. So I would certainly encourage your review of that. The other item that came to, that I would report on today would be the fact that I have been contacted by the State Auditor's Office that they will be conducting an audit of Warren County. This is not unusual. They do this of municipalities every once in a while, and it's our turn. So we will be starting a state audit. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. And again, welcome, Brian, and do you have any report for the board?
Briefly, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 resolutions in the packet today to assist in restructuring the office a little bit and helping transition to new people that we hope to be hiring soon. 71 is restructuring a legal assistant to a secretary to the county attorney. 75 is bringing back a legal assistant who's retired to help in the transition until we hire another legal assistant and, until we hire a secretary, and as well to help train that new secretary in the resolution process. And number 95 is continuation of the first assistant county attorney after her retirement, which brings me to the first assistant county attorney in her retirement. You know, in this profession, you come to expect a level of expertise and professionalism and courtesy of all your colleagues, and every once in a while you are blown away by how gracious and professional and helpful someone can be, and that is what Amy has done. I can't thank her enough publicly for what she's done in this transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That's it. Reading of communications.
Report of criminal and family workloads for December 2015 from the Warren County Probation Department. ProAct Warren County Discount Card Utilization Report for January 2014 through January 2016. Warren County 2015 Annual Corporate Compliance Report as submitted by Joanne McKinstry, Warren County Corporate Compliance Officer. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Court December 2015 surcharge check in the amount of $4,201. Correspondence from NISAC dated February 8, 2016, containing the official resolutions adopted by county delegates at the NISAC 2016 Legislative Conference held in Albany, New York. Notice of violation in order to comply from the New York State Department of Labor pertaining to a violation of the Public Employee Safety and Health Act of 1980 at the Employment and Training Administration Office, as well as a response from the Warren County Self-Insurance Administrator addressing said violation, and letter from Paul Dusick, County Administrator, announcing his intent to retire from county service effective March 29, 2016.
Okay. Reading of resolutions.
Resolution numbers 46 through 87 were mailed. Resolution number 78 was tabled earlier in the meeting. A motion is needed to bring resolutions number 88 through 99 to the floor.
Yeah, that motion by Supervisor Gerard, second by Supervisor Simpson. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, board comments on any resolutions. Supervisor Strauss.
Yeah, Resolution 91, which deals with the allowing the towns to participate in the electronics recycling. And I want to thank Julie Butler and Chairman Garrity and Administrator Dusick for pushing this along. Although, by law, it's not to be a local municipality burden. It is supposed to be the burden of the manufacturer. And that's one reason why I was asked to talk before the New York State Assembly DEC Oversight Committee next Wednesday. I'll be with Assemblyman Dan Stack, and we're going to be talking about e-waste issues and impacts on local government. So hopefully we'll make things better. But again, Julie and Chairman Garrity and Administrator Dusick, thanks for pushing this along. At least it gives us a solution, even though it does put the burden on the municipalities, but we're getting something done with e-waste. And I'll see if we can get something better as we move forward.
Thanks, John. Anybody else, any comments on resolutions or roll call votes? Supervisor Seaver?
I'd like a roll call vote on resolution number 73.
73? Sure.
Just to briefly discuss it. I don't wanna personalize this, I think our, deputy commissioner and chief legal counsel is working very hard. But I just wanna echo the comments of Chairman, our finance chair, Ron Conover, in the effort to be consistent and fair to employees, both our current and previous employees. I just wanna bring up the fact that, you know, I understand we did discuss this in committee, it did pass through committee, but I do think that it's important we have policies. I think that we're, approving this without any policies or procedures for this particular incident, or instance, and that, you know, previously we had Maureen, who was filling in as the commissioner for 7 pay periods, who went without being reimbursed, or paid a higher salary for her duties. We've had other examples throughout the county where people have stepped in for, several weeks without any compensation, and I do think that it's appropriate to be looking at a 3 month or whatever the committee decides in terms of a policy. And I am more, than happy, I would love to be able to retroactively approve, this request, but I think that we do need to have that policy in place. Because of that, I'll be voting no on it today.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, any requests for roll call votes? Anybody from the public wish to speak on any resolutions? Nobody? Okay, I guess we'll ask Amanda to do the voting.
Okay, resolution 46, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 47, amending Warren County budget for 2016 for various departments. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover? Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 71, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2016. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo? Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover? Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 73, temporarily increasing salary of Cynthia Schrock Sealy, Deputy Commissioner of Social Services / Chief Legal Counsel. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
No.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
No.
Mr. Conover? Chairman Garrity?
Well, in a rare moment, I do agree with Supervisor Seaver that, you know, we need to have a policy in place, although this person has been working the job for over 6 weeks, so I'm gonna vote yes. But I think it's very important that we establish that policy, whatever committee takes it up as soon as possible. But I do agree with Rachel, we just can't pick and choose. We need to have something concrete, so I will vote yes. Can I submit that? Okay.
Resolution 80, authorizing the appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve fund to various budget codes to make distributions based on the 2016 occupancy tax spending plan and amending 2016 Warren County budget. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver? Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 81, authorizing appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget to fund additional events approved at the December 3rd, 2015 occupancy tax workshop, amending 2016 Warren County budget. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo? Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover? Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 82, authorizing the appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget to provide funding for a water feature at the Charles R. Wood Park and amending the 2016 Warren County budget. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover? Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 83, authorizing the county treasurer to transfer funds from the computer reserve fund to various budget codes for purchase of computers and related equipment software and amending 2016 Warren County budget. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 84, authorizing appropriation of funds from the vehicle reserve to various departmental budgets to purchase vehicles and amending 2016 Warren County budget. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 85, increasing capital project H306 land avigation easement, Forest Enterprises Management, Inc. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 94, authorizing advance of funds from the general fund unappropriated surplus to the Warren County Sheriff's budget to facilitate an upgrade to newer software with said advanced funds to be reimbursed to the county upon receipt of grant funds to the Sheriff's Office by the New York State Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Services and amending the Warren County budget for 2016. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover? Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 96, increasing capital project H354 County Highway Preservation Project, authorizing transfer of funds and amending Warren County budget for 2016. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution 97, increasing capital project H365 Bay Road Preservation Project. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
And Resolution 98, establishing capital project H367 First Wilderness Plan Implementation 2015. Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Vanslo? Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Collective on all the rest, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I have two quick announcements. We do need an executive session to discuss litigation. I have two announcements before we go into executive session. I apologize. We thought we had it set up for NICEAC to come this month, and he had to cancel it. He will be at the March meeting. Therefore, I've asked Amanda that we keep the March meeting at the same time and date. The second, as you all saw the letter from the mayor of Glens Falls, I got the letter in my mailbox, I think Tuesday, so we sent it right out to everybody, and I'm working with Evelyn on a response to the mayor, but we will bring it back to committee. It has to go through, our system says we take it back to committee. I have a response written. I'll work with Evelyn to get it to your committee on the 29th. And if we want to change the time of the April board meeting to a 7 o'clock meeting, I need permission of the board, correct?
Yes.
I need a 2/3 vote of the board to change the meeting time from the normal Friday at 10 a.m. to Friday at 7 or 5. It's your choice. That would be our first night meeting in April. What's the pleasure of the board? 7? Or how many people want 7 o'clock? Show of hands. Show them high. I mean, and how many want 5 o'clock? Okay, well, we're going to vote. We're going to vote on the 5 o'clock. So we need to do a roll call vote on 5 o'clock. On what's the date of it?
April,
Whatever the date in April is. Oh, we need to waive the rules. Okay, I didn't know that. So somebody want to make a motion to waive the rules? Supervisor Seaberg, second by Supervisor Beatty. You had discussion. Yeah.
I know during your state of accounting, you had previously indicated perhaps having a meeting at 7 and a meeting at 5,
Right.
kind of seeing what works for the public.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, maybe at this time, if we could just plan that, so that the public could see in advance, we're doing one in April, maybe we do another one in August, or whatever the case might be. But for purposes of planning, like we are committee members, is that possible?
I think it's possible to pick the dates. I just don't have a calendar here to give you the dates. But Supervisor Brock, you had a comment?
Yeah, most town meetings, I know the city common council, they do their meetings, or in the city we do it at 7:30, or 7. But the idea is that people are just getting home at 5, that this is gonna be open. I mean, when do you have your, yeah, it should be later than 5, I would think.
Well, people said they wanted 5. I mean, it's majority rule. No, I understand what you're saying. We'll make the next one at 7.
Okay.
We'll alternate. We'll do the 5, and then we'll do the 7, and then we'll do the 5:30, and then we'll do the 7, unless we bomb out the 5:30, and then we'll have to have another vote to make them all at the same time. All right? Is that all right with everybody? Because we're going to vote to do this first one at 5:30. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, what am I? Yeah.
Two votes. The first vote, all you're doing is to waive the fact that it's not in writing, and they need to all agree to that.
Okay.
And then the second vote will be on.
They have to be roll call votes?
No.
Okay. All those that agree that we're waiving the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're going to do the vote.
That one has to roll call because you got two-thirds.
Yeah, we're doing the roll call. She's got the sheet ready. Ready?
Yeah.
This is change the time 5:30 to the April meeting.
Mr. Leggett?
16. Oh, 15. What the hell? I gotta put my reading glasses on. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
No.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier? No. Mr. Simpson?
Yeah.
Mr. Vanslo?
No.
Mr. Dickinson?
No.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss? Ms. Seaver? Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Ms. Wood?
No.
Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Chairman Garrett?
Yes. Pass.
It did not, you needed 667 votes for a two-thirds majority, 642 in favor.
with Ron Montesi here, not here, does that,
He counts as absent.
He's absent.
so we still need 667 even without him here?
That's correct.
Okay, but we have time if you wanna bring it up again at the next meeting. Right now, the meeting stays the same. Okay? Anybody want to talk to us anybody has anything to bring from the board before we go to executive session? Because I need to get the executive session done. Doug?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on the consolidation. Queensbury's right next to Glens Falls. I'm a Glens Falls grad, so I have a lot of friends down there. And what I have found just from talking to a number of people is they don't seem to be for the consolidation. And my point is, I'd like to see the mayor hold weekly town hall meetings in Crandall Library for the next 4 or 5 weeks to allow the people of Glens Falls to be heard. I have a tough time even considering this when I don't think that it's given its due vetting with the people of Glens Falls.
If you would just let me get my response to the Criminal Justice Committee, you'll see that I'm following almost the same avenue you are speaking about. If you just let me go, because I've been reading up on it and did some more research on what's going on. But wait to criminal justice. Thank you for your comments, but I think you'll see that we're heading down that avenue.
Okay.
Supervisor Claudia Bramer, did you?
Thank you. I'd like to see it come back to committee, and I would respectfully ask Supervisor Beatty to allow the supervisors on this side of the table to help indicate what the Glens Falls residents are seeking out of the consolidation. Thank you.
Good. I'd like to hear that, and hopefully that would be reflective of some town hall meetings.
Got you covered on that. Wednesday,
Matt's already on top of it.
24th, 6:30.
Okay, let's go to comments from the public. Not supervisor. Dave Strainer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few things today I'd like to mention. One is, the Warren County Association of Realtors has now changed their name. We are now the Southern Adirondack Realtor Association. After a long and lengthy process, because there are 4 counties involved in this, we are changed our name. And I wanted to give a shout out, and I'm sure Supervisor Leggett and Supervisor Simpson know this person. Recently, at the New York State Association of Realtors midwinter meetings, we do a community service award, and this year our county happened to have the person that got the community service award. I'd like to give a shout out to Cindy Mead from Gallo Realty. Cindy was the recent recipient of this award, and instead of crying and complaining, she got out and she started doing things. And she said she started working with 5 other businesswomen. She created the Tri-Lake Business Alliance in 2011, which she serves as secretary. The goal of the Tri-Lakes Alliance was of them to try to get Chestertown back on the map, and there was approximately 50 people that became involved, and they've done numerous things to create tourism and get events up there. I'll give you a couple of them. Her favorite one is Woofstock, that they do in June, where they have the dogs come up and they do tricks and they do all different kinds of things. So she's done a wonderful job, and I thought it'd be nice if we gave her a little congratulations for her job well done.
Certainly. Thank you.
My second thing is more of a personal issue. I don't know if you're all familiar. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Civic Center. And at the Civic Center, for $10 a year, you can go in and you can do your walking. And if you go around 6 times, that's 1 mile. I happen to go around 18 times, so I get to see all the advertising all the time as I'm walking by, and I see these various companies that have advertised, and I appreciate that for us. But the one thing that bothered me was when I thought about how much money this county is giving to the Civic Center. There's not one thing that promotes tourism in that Civic Center. Not one. And now I go by one spot, there's an empty place where we could have a sign. I don't understand why for $250,000 this county does not have any presence in that Civic Center for tourism. And I think that's wrong, and I'm sure Supervisor Molina will remember when we did the basketball floor and those lovely video boards. The one thing I asked for when we did this was we were putting our tourism logo on the floor. I asked for it to be specific to where when Time Warner was there and they're doing the basketball, you would see Lake George region. And now for $250,000 we get nothing. And I think that should change, and I'm hoping that we can do something about it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Gene, we'll reach out to him.
We'll take care of it.
Anybody else wish to address the board on any of the, any comments? Supervisor Gerard?
Just quickly, it's, February here, and, I have deep concerns with how we're moving forward financially, and I've brought it up consistently at committee meetings, et cetera, that I believe we need a revenue source for a lot of the things we're getting into. I know we're addressing here today the police, and the consolidation, and whether or not that comes to fruition is another thing, but there would be a significant cost to the county, and of course we have the radio communications that we have to bring up to snuff, which is another cost we really haven't delved into, and ACC, et cetera, in our courts, the $16 million expansion. So I think it's imperative at least we start the discussion on sales tax and where we're at. I've talked to the treasurer, who's quite concerned with where we're at, and I think he would lend some good verbiage to the dialogue here, and we need to have finance put it on the agenda and address it. I mean, the way I would like to go about it is just one person, is that we have debt, and I think it could take care of that debt, and it would pay residuals for years to come. I don't mind if it gets sunsetted in a period of years, but we need to address it because the things that we're spending money on are good things, are generally mandated, and we don't have a lot of control, and there seems to be no end in sight. And after 8 years of what we've gone through with the cutting, I'm quite reluctant to cut anymore to make up for some of the spending that we have to do. So, you know, we got hit with the 14 new correction officers at, you know, $1.5 million. These things are difficult after all we've been through, and I think that, you know, to be one of 3 counties in the state that still is at 7% sales tax, you know, there's a reason why the other counties are at 8%, and we need to have that dialogue, and it needs to come out of the finance committee and be on the agenda at some time. That's my point.
Thank you. Supervisor Merlino?
Mr. Chairman, it wasn't my intention to bring this up right now, but most of you all know me. I'm the guy that always tries to steal from the rich and give to the poor. I have completed my new plan for sales tax, and I've been working with the treasurer. I've mentioned to a couple of supervisors here. I've met with the mayor of Glens Falls. I have other meetings set up on it. I was going to wait 1 more month before I bring it up to make sure that people understand it. And actually, I just told Mr. Gerard I'd like to see him after this meeting to go over it. But I am going to bring a plan to try to address our concerns, and I appreciate if I was going to bring it to this meeting coming up for finance, but it was a little early. But I do now have it in print, and I have it laid out, and I'd like just the opportunity that maybe in March we'll bring it to the finance committee, or maybe you know, to this meeting. You know, next month.
Supervisor McDonald, did you have something quick?
Yeah.
We need to get an executive session.
Yes, it's just about the evening board meetings. I feel like it's, you know, I understand that it's very hard to change someone's schedule, especially a number of you are town supervisors. That's where you conduct your town meetings, if they're in the evenings. But we are also county supervisors, and I think it's a disservice to the voters to not provide at least an option, a more accessible option to come participate in the county operation. I think it's important to have at least one meeting, at least one avenue per month to give them that opportunity. That's all.
Thank you. Yes.
Very quickly, coming up on the 20th, Supervisor Simpson, Supervisor Leggett, Tri Lakes Business Alliance, Winter Carnival on Brant Lake. We are judging the frying pan toss. Everybody's invited to come.
Motion to go into executive session by Supervisor Beatty, second by Supervisor Simpson. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
That's a classic.
Potential litigation. Executive session on a motion by Mr. Simpson, second by Mr. Dixon. There's no action taken. Any more announcements for the board?
I got an announcement.
He told me they don't.
On March 12th at 3 p.m., North Warren Central School is going to have they've got a new reading room, and it's a dedication. There were over, let's see how many books were, over 500 Adirondack and history books and Adirondack children books donated by a former resident. His name was Randy Ellsworth. I think he was from Chester. Okay. And he's coming in from Wichita, Kansas, and he's going to share with the group, you know, his story. There's going to be music with Adirondack songs with Dan Bergeron. There's going to be refreshments. Fred Monroe's going to be speaking, Bernie McCann, Senator Little, and Assemblyman Speck have both been invited. And you guys will all be receiving invitations from somebody from the school. So just want to bring that to you.
March 12th?
March 12th at 3 p.m.
Any other announcements? Anybody from the audience wish to address the board one more time? Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Sokol, second